Hello, everybody out there. This is Capt Mattan, and we are going to be jumping the gun a bit here and rating our top 5 so far Orville episode. Just as a quick aside here, I will be rating the episodes as if they were Star Trek The Next Generation episodes. I just think that that's fairest. I feel like the show itself is a more comedic and slightly better shot version of that show, and I'm very happy about that. We'll be going in ascending order, so starting it out with number 5. Number 5, The Krill. The Krill, to me, of all of the episodes, aside from the pilot, Old Wounds, is perhaps the weakest episode of the series. The Krill had a very Next Generation style concept. As far as its values, it was right on point as far as trying to connect culturally with their worst enemies. This overtly mirrors the Klingons. And as far as a concept for an episode, a stellar one. The setup to the plot, which revolves around espionage, is incredibly Star Trek. However, I feel like the drama of the episode was consistently underplayed by its poor comedic execution. I would have preferred about 10 minutes into the comedy routine if they would have just stopped fooling around and gotten a bit more serious about their mission. And considering their final win towards the end of the episode, I felt like it was nearly unearned. Almost a quick wrap-up to an episode where I left in the middle, or what I thought was the middle, and came back to realize there was 9 minutes left in the episode and they were nigh off the ship, nor had come up with a stable plan on how to get out. While spending a good 7 to 10 extra minutes on comedy I felt could have been used to further the plot, especially in an episode which furthers the canon of what seems to be the main bad guy in the Orville universe. Number 4, Command Performance. I have to admit that after the pilot and the Krill episode, Command Performance and all other ones that ascend from here are only there because the other ones that exist above them are literally better than them. There is nearly no problems I have with Command Performance. As far as its values, you have a classic Star Trek theme of a first officer, an inexperienced officer, not the captain, essentially, having to step up to perform. And in this case, Alara performed against orders from the Union Admiral, very much mirroring Kirk, but only because she knew she had the strength to do so. It's essentially taking command and executing admirably under that command. Even if you're new, even if you're green. Its execution was well, it had a menagerie vibe to it that was a big zoo of people. It was quite more literal than any iteration that I've seen in any other media, besides possibly Rick and Morty. But as far as a live-action execution of what a menagerie, in air quotes, is, it's the best example on screen that I have personally ever seen. Number 3, About a Girl. This episode was really the first of the series to grab me. As far as the moral message of it. It really, its ethics and its values are so well done. The points at which characters change their minds and why they change their minds. They're very connected to humanity. I mean, the reason why Bortus understands, let's just say, how his child is special. The method by which that happened is so inexcusably Star Trek. So incredibly humanistic that, it's a small point in the episode, but it grabs me. And on an ethical level, its execution was very much like a Measure of a Man style episode when you have a tribunal deciding X, Y, or Z, and you have a voice standing against that. And it also flipped a convention right towards the end that Star Trek The Next Generation never really did. There was always moral justice at the end of a Next Generation episode. There isn't necessarily in this. Number 2, Priya. This episode has a lot going for it. It's my personal favorite episode. It has a lot of themes that are very, very William Riker. And that's no surprise, the episode was directed by Jonathan Frakes. But it has a heavy science element to it. It has romance. Realistic romance. Unlike anything seen in any Star Trek show, to be perfectly honest. It has the middle parts of love. It has falling for somebody in it. It's not Geordie LaForge nervous about how to act around somebody. It is an experienced somebody who has had a bad experience. This episode has amongst the best comedy in the entire series. I'm talking specifically about Isaac. It has themes that are apparent in other Star Trek shows that are not necessarily apparent in The Next Generation that I do enjoy. For example, it has a lot of themes that are seemingly reused from Enterprise. The fact that Charlize Theron's character comes from elsewhere and where that elsewhere is very much reminiscent of the best parts of the worst Star Trek shows. I'm talking about Star Trek Enterprise. There were very, very good excitations of concepts that are very heavy. And it really managed to balance those heavy, hard science concepts with comedy and lightness and humanity. Number 1. If the Stars Should Appear. It's really hard to argue against why this episode should not be number 1. It is the most well-executed episode. Its concepts were heavy enough, but as far as why it succeeds as the best episode is because of a classic Star Trek convention that it used marvelously, and that is the A-B split. When you have an ensemble and you want to use all of the characters for whatever traits are their strengths or play their weaknesses against said character, there is no episode that is a better example of using nearly all of your crew and having a satisfying, sensible conclusion to what happens ultimately. And it also has Liam Neeson. Thanks everybody so much for watching. If you differ from me on my opinions, please comment below and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.